to be. Okay, so we made this beautiful checklist, which we mailed to the case managers so they can vet the cases. Oh, there we go. I went too far. It's in the beginning. Okay, so it looks like this. This is the full sheet. I actually have one here in front of me. So it's a real thing. It exists. Okay, and so next picture, mechanism of injury. So we show here, first of all, in the top right, the battery of tests. It tells you what VNG plus is, video nystagmography, brain check neurocognitive, full track, and special balance and special testing. But now if you look in step 1, mechanism of injury. We're not dealing with brain injuries with someone who dropped a hammer on their toe. Okay, there's something that affected the brain. A motor vehicle collision, very common, again, over 17 miles an hour. It is almost assured that you're going to have a brain injury. There might not be a lot of car vehicle damage, but that violent movement of the head is like shaking a baby violently, and you're going to injure the brain. There does not have to be any contact to the head to have a concussion, which is a mild traumatic brain injury, same word. Okay? But obviously, if you have a blow to the head, if someone hits you with a baseball bat, if you bang your head against the window, you're likely to injure the brain. But there are also other types of brain injuries, okay? Blasts, like the service people go through overseas in theater, and even oxygen deprivation or exposure to noxious chemicals. We just had a mother and daughter who lived above a meth lab, didn't know it was there in an apartment building, and they had terrible brain injuries from that. So these are potentials, but I would say probably the majority of the cases that we see in the 9 states we're in right now are motor vehicle collisions. Loss of consciousness. If you have a loss of consciousness and it's documented, you've had a brain injury, period, nothing to talk about. Okay, they're candidates for this test. This sheet is for we made this for the case managers to vet cases so that if they're talking to a client, they can kind of get an idea of whether or not there's a brain injury and they should send them for the test. So loss of consciousness, automatically send them. Need a mechanism of injury, and then you're going to get a presentation from a patient. That presentation is going to be that either they don't feel right, or they're not feeling their usual self, or something's just not right. If you've ever spoken to a brain-injured patient, you get that feel from them. Now, not every brain-injured patient will offer all the symptoms. When I first started the research for this in determining the possible subjective symptomatology, Johns Hopkins and Rivermead and UCLA said there were 15, but we have so much more data than them that we found that there were way more. There are actually 39. So we've condensed that into step 2. And step 2, you can see I separated it here by lobe, but realize that there's carryover. So if you look under cerebellum in the middle, it says balance problems. But a balance problem is not only your cerebellum. It could be the brainstem. It could be the peripheral vestibular system. I tried to get all 39 on one piece of paper. So remember, there's carryover. But as you ask a patient and you start checking off and they say yes, they may offer all the symptoms, or some of the macho patients may not want to tell you what's wrong. But if you ask them, you know, are you easily distracted, they'll admit to it. So as you check off more than 5 of these symptoms, you know you have a brain injury. And we, again, are data-based, data-driven, and we didn't just come up with 5 as a random number. 5 is the number. Once you get past that, we know you have brain injury. Okay, so the case managers typically use this. It's located on my website under the picture where it says the silent epidemic. So when you log on to my website, which is www.medtrakdx.com, and I'll do a little commercial here. Medtrak is spelled M-E-D-T-R-A-K. There's no C in the track. We take out the C for concussion. Well, that's an old, if you've ever remember the mattress commercial where you take off the S for saving, now you remember Medtrak has no C. So M-E-D-T-R-A-K, DX for diagnostics, D like dog, X like X-ray. So medtrakdx.com. You will find this there. You can download it. We could send you a whole package of these if you want them, a box of them for your case managers but you have it there to be able to print out. It's very nice to have on your desk if you're talking to or intaking a new client. But the essence of all of this is what you're looking at is a patient who has these symptoms, and you want to be able to correlate to the objective test these symptoms. That's very important. So I'll use an analogy that I typically use, would be in front of a jury. If you have fallen and you think you broke your arm, but we're in an age before X-ray, so there's no objective test to see if the arm is broken, if the bone is broken. You would say subjectively, it's weak, it's swollen, it's hurting me, I can't turn my arm or my hand, I'm having trouble, it feels like it's broken. One doctor could say, yeah, I agree, broken in the 1800s. Another might say, no, I don't think so, it's a sprain. But now you have the invention of an X-ray. So that's the objective test. So now you take the X-ray, see the picture of the broken radius. Now all those subjective complaints match to the objective findings. So what we've done is we've spent 5.5 years with more than 1 trillion possible combinations and utilizing engineers and special computer people to figure out exactly what the correlation between every subjective complaint that you see on that sheet to every objective finding in the battery of tests. So now you'll get a report that says, here's the finding of the brain injury or dysfunction, and this is why those complaints are symptoms for the patient. And then again, realize that these symptoms are permanent. Although a patient may go through therapy and feel better and not be having any issue at all, it will come back. And that's the part that insurance carriers and defense and adjusters don't want to hear about. They want to say, oh, they had therapy, they're all better, that's it. And that's just not the case. And we've been doing this for 5 decades. We see the vestibular decline. One of the things I want you to all remember from this conversation is you think of the initials TBI as traumatic brain injury. But I want you to also remember that TBI should stand for traumatic balance injury. So I would say in the last 1,000 patients that we saw, all 1,000 patients had a balance component to their brain injury. And the reason for that is, again, I mentioned 3 systems that keep you upright in space: your visual system, your proprioceptive system, and your inner ear. And although the inner ear sometimes is injured, sometimes not, think about proprioception and how you feel where you are in space and what you feel through your feet and how you get older and don't feel as well, and through your feet or through your muscles or joints. Your vision, when you're 20, great. When you're 40, when you're 60, not so good. So these systems deteriorate, okay? And if there's a component to injury there, again, you're going to have a lot of trouble and be a full risk.